ahead and start to try to rehabilitate their lives.
Their thirst for knowledge is amazing. One fact is worthy of mention. Not a single pupil is late for class. They come without breakfast because the canteen is open very early and school is late. Anyone who is aware of the sensitivity to hunger of the former Kotsetniks will appreciate their devotion to studies.
For many survivors, culture and education were very important. We can ask, why were they so important when for many of these people food was still scarce, they were still in mourning, and the future was still very uncertain? For many of them, culture was what represented the bridge between their former lives. It connected them to their previous traditions. It was also a way to escape their reality. Education was the key to their futures. For instance, survivors in the DP camps published more than 70 newspapers. They had film screenings, they established sports clubs, there were theaters, there was art, there was culture. They also established schools to give the children whose lives had been interrupted vocational and educational training. In addition, they began commemoration projects. The camps were full of posters everywhere to make people aware of all these activities. The atmosphere was the opposite of the desperation and the awful uncertainty that the survivors of the Holocaust had been living with. As a matter of fact, the atmosphere was one of a frenzy of activity, as though these people were trying to make up for all the time they had lost. Survivors who were alone tried to make new human connections. They reached out for other survivors who instinctively understood the trauma and the loss they had experienced without having to discuss it too much.
People got married. They would take a hut divided into 10 tiny rooms for 10 couples. The desire for life overcame everything. After such destruction, to build a new life, to get married, to bring children into the world. In the ability to forget, and the ability to create a new life.
There was an astonishing number of marriages in the DP camps, sometimes as many as 6 every day. And after the marriages came children. In fact, the survivors' birth rate was higher than anywhere else in the world. In the Bergen-Belsen camp alone, 555 babies were born in 1946. And by 1948, the camp was celebrating the birth of the 1,000th baby. All of these things were manifestations of the survivors' drive to live, and not only to live, but also to create new life. They were building a future. After spending needed time in the DP camps, where the survivors could recuperate, reestablish their connections, and regain their footing, they moved on to places where they could put down roots and settle permanently. Survivors immigrated to all parts of the world, with the majority of them reaching and settling in the United States and in Israel. Wherever they went, they contributed to the societies in which they settled. For Jewish survivors, the end of the war was merely the beginning of a difficult journey. They needed to adapt to living with the scars of loss and the memories that they would continue to carry with them. Though some survivors never recovered from the trauma of the Holocaust, most of them managed to build a new life.
On the night of November 11, 1940, 21 biplanes from Royal Navy aircraft aircraft carrier launched a surprise attack on the Italian fleet anchored in the port of Taranto. The Italian ships were protected by anti-torpedo nets and surrounded by barrage balloons and anti-aircraft defenses. They thought they were immune to an air attack. However, in less than 2 hours, the Swordfish torpedo bombers struck 3 battleships and several cruisers and severely damaged the port installation. The Royal Navy gained effective control of the Mediterranean, losing just 2 aircraft and 4 crewmen. It was the first time carrier-borne aircraft had been used in an attack on heavily defended warships. The raid not only revolutionized naval warfare, it also changed the course of history. Other navies took a keen interest in the Royal Navy's use of an aircraft carrier to launch an attack at long range, particularly the Japanese Imperial Fleet. Just over a year later, the Japanese would use the aircraft carrier to launch an assault on the American fleet in Pearl Harbor.
This is a story of the sea, on which Britain, through the ages, has depended for her security and for the life of her existence from it. We acknowledge the honors due to all our mercantile marines in all the 7 seas. Out of the ships that sail the waters of the globe, proudest are those which ply the sea lanes of the north and left, bridging the ocean waves to divide the western hemisphere. And foremost among these floating bridges are the mighty Nissakia and ships of Greenland, monumental symbols of Britain's shipbuilding skills and seafaring leadership. Here, as the key is definitely very soon. Nothing has been spared as to make British residential service swift and efficient. There is one of us who doesn't know these going streets by name, though there are plenty of us who take them for granted. But in the ship's still, nothing, not even the stage boy's manager, is taken for granted. And like this detail, must be as perfect as the stand is majestic. And as ocean travelers pass their carefree days, what do they know of the history of these great things at sea?